Let's jump right into this explainer and really unpack the sprawling generational conflict of the Naruto universe. We're going to dissect why the absolute greatest battles in this universe weren't just about survival or, throwing around flashy jutsu, but about a centuries-old war of philosophies. We're looking way beyond the incredible magic system and massive brawls to examine the deep ideological core of this story and the legendary avatars who fought for it. It's an ancient conflict rooted in betrayal and misunderstanding, and it all centers on one massive, literal scar on the earth. Basically, this is a story about how history absolutely refuses to stay in the past. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The curse versus the will. 2. Avatars of the conflict. 3. The valley of the end. 4. Generations inherit the battle. And finally, 5. Breaking the cycle. Starting things off with Section 1. The curse versus the will. Okay, so at the very core of this entire universe, you have two radically different worldviews pitted directly against each other. First up, you have the Senju clan's will of fire. This is a completely selfless approach. It's a philosophy where you're fully expected to sacrifice your own desires and even your own life for the betterment of the many, specifically the entire village. It governs every single decision a Senju makes, creating this culture of communal protection. On the flip side, you've got the Uchiha clan's curse of hatred. Now, outsiders usually just view this as self-interest or arrogance, but it's really about fiercely prioritizing your closest intimates or your immediate clan over the wider collective. And this intense focus, it's almost always born out of profound, devastating trauma. They love so deeply that the loss of that love completely rewires how they view the whole world. And the biological reality of this philosophy is honestly staggering. The source material actually tells us that when an Uchiha experiences the deep despair of losing a loved one, it causes a manifestation of unique chakra right inside their brain. This chakra literally impacts their optic nerves to create the Sharingan. Think about how wild that is for a second. The Uchiha literally gain escalating magical superpowers from desperately needing therapy. Their immense optical power, their ability to cast mind-bending illusions and summon unquenchable black flames is directly fueled by their most agonizing experiences. They are biological engines of grief, literally converting emotional darkness into physical devastation. Just look at this quote from the second Hokage Tobirama, when the object of their affection is lost and Uchiha's love can instantaneously turn into hatred. Now, coming from a Senju, a bitter, lifelong rival of the Uchiha, this observation points out a deeply tragic irony. It completely demystifies them. It shows us that they aren't inherently evil or malicious by nature. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. They are people overwhelmingly devoted to love and connection. But because they love so fiercely, tragedy weaponizes that love. The pain of loss instantly flips their devotion into a desperate, all-consuming need for revenge. It's a vicious cycle hardwired into their DNA, dooming them to lash out at a world that hurt them. Moving right along to Section 2, Avatars of the Conflict. So, Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha are the ones who take this theoretical, philosophical debate and turn it into world-shaking combat. They perfectly mirror each other, blending unimaginable magical abilities with totally opposing views on how to achieve lasting peace. Hashirama takes this incredibly compassionate, diplomatic approach driven by the will of fire. He genuinely believes people can eventually understand each other if they just sit down and talk. But Madara, heavily influenced by the trauma of losing his brothers in relentless clan wars, he takes a merciless, ruthless approach. He is completely convinced that humanity is inherently selfish and absolutely incapable of peace without an iron fist. For him, unchecked control is the only way to stop the endless bleeding. And to see just how extreme Madara's philosophy gets, look at his escalation during the Fourth Great Ninja War. It's absolutely ridiculous. He doesn't just come back to life, he speedruns godhood. He starts out as a modified zombie, dropping actual meteors from the sky just to test out his power. Then, he forces his revival into a living human body, absorbs Sage Chakra, and captures all the tailed beasts to become the unstoppable Ten-Tails Jinchuriki. Finally, he awakens the Rinne Sharingan on his forehead so he can cast the infinite Tsukiyomi illusion on the entire planet. He literally attempts to force world peace by trapping every living human in a permanent, controlled dream state. It is an awe-inspiring, frankly terrifying realization of the curse of hatred taken to its maximum limit. But Madara didn't go historically unopposed, right? Hashirama earned the title God of Shinobi for a very good reason. His Sage Mode was staggeringly powerful. He could knead natural energy in a matter of seconds, basically granting him near infinite chakra. His ultimate technique, the Shinsu-senju, which is this colossal 1,000-armed wooden Buddha statue, was so overwhelmingly massive, it made a giant 9-tailed fox wearing mystical samurai armor look like a tiny, insignificant toy. Hashirama's power was so absolute that his mere presence forced the entire ninja world into an era of relative, albeit really fragile, stability. Let's transition to Section 3, the Valley of the End. Now, the Valley of the End isn't some pretty natural wonder. It is a violent, geological battle scar. The raw power unleashed during Hashirama and Madara's legendary final battle was so immense, it literally terraformed the Earth. We're talking about attacks so catastrophic that they physically reshaped the continent. Their clash of tailed beast balls and colossal wood jutsu completely carved out a massive ravine, diverted rivers, and left behind this permanent, undeniable reminder of their ideological war. It's just a terrifying monument to the sheer heights of shinobi power. The village memorialized them by putting up these towering statues on opposing cliffs. But if you look closely at their hands, they stand locked in the traditional pre-battle seal of confrontation. That's exactly how shinobi formally greet each other before a sparring match. So even in death, molded in stone, they're eternally beginning a spar. The valley stands perfectly still, locked in a perpetual state of tension. It acts as this haunting proxy battleground, quietly waiting for the next generation to step in, make the signs, and finally finish the fight. Which brings us to a huge question for this explainer. If the incredibly powerful founders of this world could only fight to a bitter standstill that resulted in deep-seated, generational grudges, who exactly is destined to fight in the shadow of these enduring monuments? And much more importantly, are they doomed to just simply repeat the exact same bloody history all over again? We'll explore that in Section 4. Generations inherit the battle. See, Naruto and Sasuke aren't just childhood rivals, they are the literal spiritual reincarnations of a cosmic dispute. The conflict between the ancient brothers Ashura and Indra evolved into Hashirama versus Madara, and then passed directly into Naruto and Sasuke. Just imagine the massive burden this places on two teenagers. It is the eternal clash between communal selflessness and isolated trauma, playing out again and again across the centuries, completely outside of their control. They're walking into a violent destiny that was carved out for them before they were even born. To really understand Naruto's specific role in navigating this destiny, we have to look at the linguistics of the world. The kanji for ninja literally translates to heart under blade. Early villains in the series only ever understood the blade aspect, manipulation, cold calculation, instilling fear. But Naruto, guided by the will of fire, fundamentally understands the heart, the immense power of collective belonging and empathy. It's a concept that resonates deeply, the absolute necessity of balancing immense capability with genuine compassion. Naruto has to balance the sharp, deadly blade of a shinobi with a heart big enough to save his best friend from the abyss. Finally, we reach Section 5, breaking the cycle. Everything hits an absolute breaking point in this final battle. Sasuke, totally drowning in the ultimate culmination of the curse of hatred, plans to execute the world's leaders and force a dark revolution. Naruto meets him at the Valley of the End to stop him. Their powers have grown so immense by this point that their clash literally obliterates the massive statues of Hashirama and Madara. It's this grueling, desperate brawl that slowly strips away their godlike powers until they are just two exhausted kids throwing weak punches in the mud. It literally took complete mutual exhaustion, the tragic loss of their dominant arms, and the physical destruction of their predecessors' monuments to finally allow Naruto's stubborn empathy to break through Sasuke's darkness. In the aftermath of this is just incredible visual poetry. The valley is completely unrecognizable. The statues are entirely gone. But the severed stone hands of Hashirama and Madara inadvertently fell together across the rushing water, resting in the exact formation of the Seal of Reconciliation. So that pre-battle confrontation seal we talked about earlier, it is finally permanently resolved. The broken stone hands of the founders make the post-battle sign of peace, symbolizing that the bitter, centuries-old rivalry has, at long last, reached a true understanding. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. We've seen how deeply entrenched ideologies, fueled by generational trauma, can tear an entire world apart. But we've also seen how the stubborn, empathetic heart of just one person, refusing to ever give up on a friend, can shatter that cycle entirely. How can we apply the lesson of the Valley of the End to the cycles of conflict we see around us today? Where in our world, in our own deeply entrenched ideological battles, are we just waiting for that seal of reconciliation? Think about that for a bit. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.